So Joel Embiid lands horribly. All of our collective Joel Embiid lives flashed before our eyes as he limped off. He was writhing in pain. We get the better news from the MR.
What was your before we get there? What was your initial reaction?
Oh, he's done for the season.
Really?
Yeah, it looked like an ACL to me.
I don't know. So I wasn't watching the game live. I was going to watch it later. I was, in fact, playing Mario Kart. So the Wario memes of "I won, but at what cost" really hit me directly in the chest because that's what I was doing. And then I watched it. Embiid looked initially like he thought it was over. Like he seemed to be like breaking down on the court. And that was obviously very scary to see. But then he kind of like sits up and looks and he's like, oh, I think I'm okay. I can move it. I can bend it. And then he walks off. And at that point I was like, I think it's fine. I just had I don't know why. I don't know how. After 8 years of this podcast, did we do this podcast when the Bynum stuff was happening? No, we
were after Bynum.
Since the Bynum situation, I don't know how I can feel positive about any injury, but I for some reason just did. I had just like a good feeling like it wasn't going to be it then. I don't know why. And then the first scan came back pretty good, so that there was like cautious optimism, and then the next morning they just described it as a bone bruise. So I mean, and now Doc said before the game, it's they have a plan. He's optimistic. It's just rehab. He's gonna like attack it, and we're feeling good. So yeah, I mean, look, scary, very annoying as far as the MVP thing goes.
Well, just I think the most scary, given the history, and first of all, I speak for you when I say that our biggest concern is him. Like he's been through so much, he's battled back through so much, and we think about him. So as we talk about the context of the basketball team, it's obviously secondary. But the other thing was that like the 2017 knee was also a bone bruise until it wasn't anymore.
Sure. Yes. So we're not on in blind trust terms with the Sixers medical staff. But yeah, I think that now that I don't know what the thought is. Is the thought going to be, I feel pretty good in a week. I could come back and maybe still be in the MVP conversation, or is it just going to be like that's out the window? Let's just make sure we're ready. Let's come back when it's like for sure, because you don't want to re-aggravate anything. But I don't know. That's my concern. But I feel just generally positive about it. I think he's going to be okay, and sort of if they do decide, let's take it as cautiously as possible. Let's eliminate the idea of like MVP from our mind. Just know that this was your MVP season. It got cut short. Let's focus on winning a championship now. I do think it is ultimately like maybe a healthy thing.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you something that I'm worried about.
I think I already started the game before you started the game.
Yeah, I knew there was no way. But I'll give you something that I'm nervous about, and then you okay. So first thing, you're like, just a bone bruise. Well, they say, reevaluate in 2 weeks, 2 to 3 week injury. That smells like 5 or 6 weeks to me. There's no way he'll be back in 2 to 3 weeks, and bone bruises take a while to heal up. So that's my first dark side, is that he's never going to be back in 2 or 3 weeks.
Totally fine. Let him relax. I don't care too much between the difference between the 1 seed and the 2 seed, and clearly they've now won a couple games in a row without him, so they're like holding up okay. And even though, I think Brooklyn is going to not stay this hot all season long. They will get a little colder at some point. So I think they're due for a little bit of a slump in some regard. But they're still 2.5 games up on Milwaukee for the 3 seed. I just need to at least give me a top 2 seed, and let's make sure Joel is healthy, rested, and focused for the playoffs, even if it ends up being longer than the 2 to 3 week timeline.
All right, Darkside. He's never going to win the MVP now, and it will be mentally crushing to him.
I don't think that would be mentally crushing to him. I don't think that. I think he knows that he should have won Rookie of the Year. I think he knows that he's been an NBA. He's been the All-Star starter for 4 years. And I think that his body, even though his body's been great this year and his conditioning has been way up, I think it's sustainable. It doesn't seem to be like I stopped eating everything. He doesn't seem to be going for broke this year or nothing else. It seems like this is going to be a way to, lengthen his career and lengthen his prime and stuff. And so whether or not he wins an MVP ever, I think the thing that he cares about most is winning a championship. And now that the MVP conversation is kind of out of the way, he can then focus on that.
Darkside, when he comes back, he will have just sat for basically the entire All-Star break and then 4 weeks, and he's never going to get back into the shape that he was in this year.
No, he will. He will. That's not that long. His other knee is going to be so ready. His ankles are great. His feet. Oh, man, his hips. Think how rested his hips are. His back. This is giving his back a break. All of it.
That's a good point. That's a great point. Okay, Darkside. With this going on, it makes the trade deadline harder to figure out.
Yeah. Yes. I think that's true. I think, Toronto's kind of decimated by COVID a little bit right now. I think Van Vliet and a couple other guys are out. They've lost 4 in a row. Maybe they decide, let's get something for Kyle Lowry. Like they have a week and a half to do it, so we'll see. But I agree. I don't think Washington is bad. 14 and 23, a bunch of games out. But it doesn't seem like they're going to want to trade Beal, and Beal might not even want to go, and the Sixers might not even have anything to make that trade happen anyway. But I think there's, whether it's Lowry or somebody else, I think it's going to be like, okay, with or without Embiid, I would like a stretch 5, and I would like a guy that can create a little bit, and then another, especially if we end up trading Danny, like give me like diet Wes Matthews or something, just like a guy that can like shoot a little bit, and basically Glenn Robinson, like maybe someone who wants to be here a little bit more, but somewhere in that regard.
He hated it here. Okay.
He really hated it here. He hated it here. Do you think he resents it because they beat Milwaukee in 01? Could be it.
No. All right, 3 more. To stay afloat, they're going to have to play completely differently than they played with Embiid, and when he comes back, they're not going to be able to adjust.
Oh, I don't agree with that. No, I think this will just strengthen it. I think, first of all, Ben and Tobias both really like posting up. I think sometimes they do it too much. But now if they're like, okay, we're going to post up, those guys give them some of Embiid's post-up touches, then it's like, okay, they know how to play that way. I think defensively they'll probably struggle quite a bit more, but that means more minutes for Matisse because they need a little bit more of defensive juice. And it's coinciding with, the hottest shooting stretch of his career, so that's nice so far. But I think the offense will be okay. I think the defense will probably struggle more.
This one is particularly dark, and then there's one that's a little less dark. This one is just thinking out loud, going through my feelings. I was just like, man, this poor guy's never going to get through a fucking season healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think any big guy getting as many touches as he does, like playing with as much power as he does, like it just happens.
Yeah.
Like it kind of just happens. And like the LeBron thing where he like landed on his back, that's like a particular circumstance. I think he's already playing, from his rookie year to now, I think he's already playing a little bit more like ground bound.
He definitely is.
It's not like he's Nerlens, like anymore. He's not doing like flying around, jumping and stuff. He's mostly, aside from like occasionally chase down blocks and stuff, his game is predicated upon like power and finesse and strength and positioning and touch and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, it sucks because I feel for him, and especially after he took so much time to like really give a shit about his body and internalize the criticism and go from there. But I think it makes him more hungry, hopefully.
And then the final one, man, this is why you trade for James Harden. When your main guy goes down, you have another guy to just fucking run the team.
Yeah. I mean, it's coinciding nicely with Tobias's best stretch and Simmons playing the best ball of his career. So I think it's less of a concern there, especially now the Sixers are at full health, which is super helpful. But if anybody else goes down, then it becomes a little bit dangerous. Yeah, I mean, having James Harden is better than not having James Harden.
Yeah.
But I think also the flip side of that is if you get James Harden and Embiid's out for a long time or not perfect, not up to his previous playing ability, and you traded Simmons and everything else for Harden, and then it just gets ugly. Harden could walk. Like there's a bunch of that wouldn't be like the perfect scenario either. Like, hey, we have a James Harden team with like a James Harden Tobias Harris team if Simmons is gone. I don't think that would be perfect either.
A James Harden Furkan Korkmaz team.
Yes, true. Very true.